symbols in it, and all the elements are the small and the bigger elements, the choice of your protagonists actually reflect a lot of the idea of this time as well. So how did you do the research to get information, authentic information from that time?
Thank you. I like this question because research is really important, and the research phase was very important for this film, and I was lucky because I had a lot of material at my hands. The fighters at this time and later, I mean, they were the center of international attention, so they were very well photographed, actually, international. I mean, it was very easy to find visual material, and newsreels, and also all of the Palestinian resistance groups. They also had film units, and they were there. So there's a lot of images that I could refer to, not just of the fighters, but also the camps, UN-administered camps. I mean, the UN archives. There was so much material, and it was great because I needed it for research, I needed it for writing, I needed it when I worked with this cinematographer. We watched stuff, we talked about things, we looked at photographs. I looked at a lot of the works of those filmmakers who were making works at the time, and some of them was just documenting their lives, and some of it was artistic filmmaking too, and so there was that part, and then there was a lot of interviewing that I did with many people who were involved in these activities or living at the time, whatever. I mean, I did a lot of stuff. So, and the process I love a lot, the research part of it. So, thank you for the question.
There's the question in the first row.
Hi, Anne-Marie. Thank you very much for the film. I have one question. Did you know from the very beginning of writing the script that your main protagonist would be a boy? Because I was wondering what would the film be like if it was a girl.
He was a boy. He was always a boy. I don't know why. I don't have an answer for that. He was a boy, and maybe that's because I was also interested in the fact that the mother, being a singular female character this time period, being a single mother. I mean, she's seen as a single mother in the refugee camp, and I was very also, I mean, interested in the fact that she's in the refugee camp, and she has to be. She also doesn't have the freedom. She doesn't have the freedom to be as open because she's a woman, because she's a mother, because her husband isn't with her. She's a little overprotective, and because she doesn't have anything else. She's lost her husband, she's lost her homeland, so she's holding on to the only thing she has left. And when she goes to this group of fighters, she lets her hair down a little bit because she can. She's not being judged and watched as she may have been in a society that, So for me, if it was a daughter, it probably would have been different, and there would have been maybe more to protect. But Tariq, boys have freedom too. And then also in the 60s, when Tariq, I mean, today he would be diagnosed as having some kind of learning disability or something. At this time period, he's a little bit different than the other kids, and mothers were often stigmatized for that they had done something wrong, or maybe they didn't give the child enough love or whatever. In the 60s, there were reasons that women were sort of blamed for why their kids were not sort of fitting in. So, yeah, I don't know if that answers it. But Tariq was a boy. Naive, stubborn boy.
Do you still have a question? Yes,
أولاً مبروك على الفيلم الحلو. And secondly, I wanted to ask, now that we have an open end, and an open end, everybody can interpret it as anyone sees fit. Yet I wanted to ask, they were running towards Palestine, I think. Can we conclude that in the end they returned to Palestine, and then that they are rejoined with the husband and the father?
I don't think you want me to answer. I leave it open. I mean, I want to keep it like that, and to have that's for the audience to see, to decide. Yeah. I don't want to be obscure, Artie, but I leave it open.
Speaking about the boy, can you tell us how you met this actor, this boy in real, and how did you then? I think it was a difficult process, I think, to find somebody, and how did you work with him on the spot then?
He's the boy is named Mahmoud Asfa. He lives in Irbid refugee camp in the north of Jordan. He's a Palestinian refugee, third generation. We did a huge casting process, and I discovered I don't know anything about kids. I mean, I wrote the script and I had this child that's like this, and then when I started to do the casting, and we saw maybe 200 boys between the age of 11 and 13, and that's when I realized I don't know anything about that age, because I'd written this character who has this stubborn, naive, but open. I mean, the main thing about him is he's open to the world. And I was very depressed in the casting process to find that today boys that age are unfortunately already beyond that. They've already become reserved, protected, self-conscious, because Tariq is not a self-conscious person. He can run like that. He can, he doesn't think about himself, and that I discovered most boys that age already do. And so we did a huge process, and then I found this boy, and he was so much like Tariq from the beginning. I mean, he was at the audition, and he immediately stood out. I mean, first of all, he has these amazing eyes that just killed me. I mean, when he's not smiling, he breaks my heart. I mean, his eyes just like say a million things, and when he smiles, he's like the sun for me. I mean, his face just lights up. So I love this about him. And then as his character, he's very close to that. He's way wise beyond his years. I mean, he's like a little man, but he kept this childish thing about him, and he has a really supportive family. And when in the audition, I mean, I asked all the kids lots of questions when I was, auditioning, and like, what kind of music do you like? And really, maybe 70% of them, I don't like music. Do you dance? No, I don't dance. Definitely boys do not dance. This kid was like, yeah, I dance. You want me to dance? I'll dance. Like, everything I threw at him, he threw back at me, which was great. And then I asked him, which I asked all the kids, what do you want to be or do when you grow up? And they would all say, different professions. And he said, I want to go to Palestine. He didn't know anything about the story. I said, but what do you want to do? You want to work? He said, I just want to go to Palestine. I want to see Palestine. That was his answer in the audition. I said, you are Tariq. So it was really interesting. And then working with him was very different. I mean, we spent months working together because he's never acted before, and it was a lot about just getting him not to act, and just we all a lot of work together, and several months of this, and then one day he did something where we would do improv together, a lot of improv, and one day he did something, and I said, that was perfect, that was excellent. He said, I didn't do anything. Exactly. He said, oh, okay. So then he got it. I mean, this is what she wants me not to do anything. Okay. So he was, it was like that. And then, and I was lucky because his, parents were supportive. And when we approached the parents, at the very beginning, of course, to see if they were okay with the whole idea, they said, look, honestly, that's not what we dream for our son. We don't want him to be an actor. We'd never choose that for him, but he wants to do it. So we will support it, because the father was a football player when he was younger, and some football coach had come to the camp and had recruited him for a team, and his father had said no. He said for 20 years he really resented his father that he said no. So he said, I don't want my son to have that resentment to me, so I will let him, if he wants to do it, we're fine with that. We just have one request, which is that, which was the grandmother's request, we learned later. The only request they ever had was that, that he sleeps at home at night. Every night, no matter where we shot, no matter how long we shot, he sleeps in their house. So we did that. It was easy.
I think there's a question over there.
Yeah, congratulations from me as well, and thank you very much for this film. Here, Amy.